There are diseases that dominate the headlines for years, and then there are diseases that disappear into silence until someone is D again. So every few years, the word hantavirus trends to society or to the news again. But not because of a global outbreak, not because of millions being infected, because suddenly someone healthy cleaned the room, entered a dusty cabin, or even stayed somewhere abandoned. Days later, they ended up fighting for their life. And somehow, that makes it even scarier. Unlike the viruses that we usually fear, hantavirus feels quiet, actually almost hidden, like something waiting in the space people forgot about. So today, we're going to talk about the forgotten virus that probably no one really remembered until it's too late. Now, similarly, a few years ago, I covered the COVID, and right now, as I've seen in the news, yeah, I've just checked the news just recently about this. But turns out, hantavirus emerged again, and I wanted to read more about it because it's kind of new to my ears. So, yeah, that's the plan right now, and sharing you some insights that I have gathered from reading about them. As far as I know, hantavirus is a group of viruses that are mostly spread throughout rodents. Not the plague, but a combination, they said, rather. Here's the part that is a bit unsettling because we don't actually get it from being bitten. You can actually get exposed by simply breathing the tiny particles from a rodent urine, saliva, droppings, and then after they dry up and mix into the air. So meaning someone could be sweeping in a old warehouse, cleaning a storage room, or even opening a long unused cabinet. And then suddenly they never realize what they had inhaled. And what makes hantavirus different from something like COVID is that it's generally um does not spread easily from person to person because like I said, it came from rodents. And sounds reassuring then until you realize that your biggest enemy is actually not in the crowds. It might be from the dust. Now, hantavirus triggers a specific kind of fear. It's not a pandemic fear because it's actually something about hidden contamination fear. Humans are already deeply uncomfortable with rats, enclosed spaces, moldy areas, and things we cannot even see in the air. Hantavirus combines all of them in one perfect horror movie setup. And because cases are relatively rare, most people don't even think about it regularly. And it creates this cycle that I found strange. Like, for example, nobody talks about it. Did a tragic case appeared online or in the news? People panic for a week, then silence again. It feels almost like a less of a modern disease, more like an urban legend energy, something like that. This time, science is involved for, what's happening. Hmm. So, there's actually some background that I found about the hantavirus. And this was even stranger considering that it was actually had a connection with a war. Now, during the 1950s in Korea, I just forgot which part of Korea. Sorry about that. But there is a major recognized outbreak during those times, and it occurred to the soldiers along the Hanta River, hence the name. Thousands of soldiers became mysteriously ill with the symptoms that doctors actually struggled to understand at that time. And then, of course, some of those symptoms are high fevers, bleeding issues, kidney problems, and they have no idea. Eventually, researchers traced many of these illnesses back to rodents, carrying what would later become the hantavirus. Now imagine during those 1950s being a soldier, surviving a war, only then to face an invisible threat hiding in the camps and field. It's not bullets, not explosions, just exposure of contaminated environments. And that history is actually why hantavirus carries this eerie reputation that I have noticed today. Because it always exists in the background. It's quiet, environmental, and just waiting. Naturally, this raises the question, could hantavirus exist in the Philippines? But so far, no reported cases because they're all from somewhere around South America. But the answer is still nuanced because different rodent-borne diseases existed in many countries and including tropical regions, and that includes the Philippines, which has dense urban environments, flood-prone areas, rodent populations, yeah, warehouses and storage spaces, and agricultural zones. Health experts still monitor the disease connected to the rodents very carefully, but that doesn't mean people shouldn't panic every time they see a mouse in their kitchen. So don't just wear all the hazmat suit or PPEs when you buy Lucky Me at the street at 11 p.m. But it does remind us how environmental health matters more than we think, because poor sanitation, abandoned spaces, flood damages, and improper cleanup can create conditions where illnesses spread more easily. And especially after typhoons, floodings, when contaminated materials became airborne during this cleanup. And ironically, some of the most dangerous things aren't dramatic. Sometimes danger looks like sweeping, dust, an old storage box, in a room nobody had ever opened for years. What makes hantavirus memorable is not just science, because it's the atmosphere around it. The idea that something invisible can wait quietly in ordinary spaces, not in secret laboratories, but it's actually inside the forgotten corners of everyday life. And maybe that's why stories about hantavirus never fully disappear from the news or now in the internet age. Because deep down, people aren't only afraid of the virus or the disease, but we're actually afraid of the possibility of the danger can exist silently around us, and long before we notice it. So next time you clean up an old storage room, maybe open up the windows first. If you want more videos about these strange diseases, forgotten history, bizarre truths that are hiding in plain sight, follow and subscribe more to me, Mabuhay Spatty Joe, and comment below about what do you think, or what's a disease or mystery people barely talked about but absolutely should. See you on the next one. Bye-bye!